As part of my quest of getting my favourite old consoles working on my new TV, we're going to try out this thing today. It's an adapter for the PS2. I've been taking part in a themed week on Instagram this week called #AweekOfPS2. I've dug out my old PlayStation 2 consoles, all my games, been having loads of fun playing them, and I thought this would be a perfect opportunity for me to try out this, which I got from Kaico, which is an HDMI adapter to enable you to play your PS2 on your new TV. So what we're going to do is open it up, do a quick unboxing, take a look at what's in there, try it out on my TV and see what we think. Right, let's start with the box and what's in it. So, HDMI adapter for Sony PlayStation 2, includes the HDMI cable and claims to be plug and play. Key bit of information on the front of the box is that it's compatible with all versions and regions of the Sony PS2. Looking on the back, the thrust of the information is that it will allow you to use your console on an HD TV. It's compatible with all modern TVs. If they've got an HDMI input, it will be working with that. It supports the different resolutions of display you can get from the PS2. You can either have the RGB, which is a 240p signal, or you can have the component video, which is 480p, or you can up that to 576 interlaced, depending on what setting you want. That's through the HDMI, and also that it works on NTSC and PAL consoles. So if you're greedy like me and you've got consoles from different regions for playing different games, you can use the adapter on all those different machines. Right, let's take a look inside. So we've got the cardboard outer opening up. We've got our quick start guide that we'll come back to. We've got the typical Kaico vacuum form tray with a little opening here. Lever that carefully out. Well secured in there, which is not a bad thing. There we go. Because you don't want it falling out in transit, so it's safely held in there. We've got the vacuum form tray, and underneath that we have some cables. So we've got an included 1.8 meter HDMI cable and also micro USB cable, so I'm assuming that's for power. Look at the adapter itself then. So similar build to the ones I've had before. I've tried out the GameCube and I've tried out the Dreamcast adapters, and it's very similar sort of build there. Minimal metallic outer casing, gold connector on the HDMI plug. There's also this small switch here. There's a little slide switch which will go left and right, and a tiny bit of writing here. That is to swap between the component and the RGB signal. There's also a small opening here which I assume is for a power LED to let us know when that is operational. Other than that, there's nothing else on the main casing. We've got a short cable which leads us to the connector for the PS2 video out. Now I've brought my little pink PS2 console out to the shed here, just so that we can check on the connection there. So it's this, goes to the AV multi-out, and we'll simply just plug in there, allowing you then to connect your HDMI cable onto the adapter. Right, before we go and test it out, let's take a little look at our quick start guide and see what's in there. So multi-language, so I'm expecting it will just be, yeah, we've got like 3 pages in English there and in all the other languages. I won't go through all the details there, but essentially the key thing we're looking at here with the PlayStation 2 is setting up your system configuration. You can swap between the RGB video out and the component video out. And when I've done that in the past with the separate cables, particularly if it was already set in component mode, it was difficult to get it to display on an RGB cable. You'd have to connect a component cable to change the setting back again and then swap to the other cable. Whereas this one, there's no swapping involved. You can have either signal that you require, and you can have that through the single cable. Well, hopefully. In terms of the features, video and audio, full digital HDMI format, no transmission loss. Works with the majority of HDMI enabled TVs and monitors. Hassle-free, plug and play as you go, supports all PS2 display modes, 240p, 480i, 480p, PAL 576i. Provides advanced signal processing with great precision, colours and resolution. Small and discreet USB power connector offering greater convenience over a main socket plug. So if we've got a USB connector anywhere, or even through the console itself, we'll try that and see if that helps in terms of power and get. So I'm looking forward to going and trying this thing out. So instructions, we'll have a quick look at that before I go and start pulling all sorts of cables out of my TV. Remove previous PS2 AV cable and connect the adapter. Plug one end of your HDMI cable into the converter and the other end into a free HDMI socket on your TV. Select the RGB slider on the HDMI adapter. Power on your PS2, make sure your TV's input has been switched to the right input where your PS2 is connected. Verify that you can see the PS2 picture on your TV. The adapter should have a green LED. There we go, that'll be the little dot that we saw before. As described and shown above, visit the PS2 configuration menu, change the component video out setting to, and it's that YCBPBCRPR. Change the slider on the PS2 HDMI adapter to the correct component setting. And if you experience any green screens or distorted images during configuration, it's likely that RGB setting or component settings are selected with the incorrect output. So it sounds fairly simple. Please note, the HDMI adapter does not upscale or tweak the image. If you are looking for more control over your image, please try to consider the OSSC open source scan converter by Kaico. Now that is a video for another day. For now, I want quick, easy, convenient connection to play my PS2 games that I've dug out of the loft. So let's go and see how that goes. Right, here we are. PS2 all plugged in. HDMI cable plugged into the adapter and then into the TV. I've taken the micro USB and plugged that into the free USB connection on my TV as well. So that's now powered up, the green LED's on. I've switched on my PS2 and we're onto the system configuration screen. We'll go in there and we'll scroll to the system configuration component video out, or RGB. So if we go up to that one and swap to the YCBPBCRPR, it will go green. Okay, now that is normal. That's what would happen if we connected that cable and we didn't have the right output. However, now, hopefully, if I flick this little switch here, we've now got in full colour and it's a much more crisp, I mean it'll be hard to tell through this little camera, but it's a much crisper display. If we then go back, we'll try it with a game. So if I open up and go with Gradius 5, because it's what I think is the most beautiful looking PlayStation 2 game. Other opinions are available. So we'll load that one up and see how it goes. But essentially it's really easy. It is literally plug and play. The only downside is the need for the USB power. Now, one of the other things that I'm curious about is that it is USB powered and the cable is quite short here. However, a PlayStation 2 console does have USB ports. Granted, they're on the front, so it won't look great. But what I'm going to try out is swapping that from my TV and try and power it. Now we bring up the option here for the video format, so I'll go to the NTSC 60Hz format and bring that one up. We could try it with either. So test and display, if that's okay, press the X button and away we go. That's now loading. So while it's loading, I'll interfere with everything and take out the cable. So obviously that's coming up. Display looks great. If I find my USB cable and unplug that, obviously the connection will stop working. Let's make sure we've got a display first. Take that out. Now that this is getting no power, nothing's happening. However, fingers crossed, if we plug into the front of the PS2, yeah, it works. So you can have everything powered through that. You don't need a USB plug, which you could use. You know, you could use like a phone charger or something like that, but you can connect directly to your console, which is quite convenient. So as mentioned before, this doesn't upscale it. It's just like an alternative to the component cable, but if you haven't got the component input on the TV, this should work pretty well.
Select weapon order. Type 1.
So there we go, works well. So there you go, this little thing is currently on Kaico's website for £22.99, and for that you get basically two cables in one. It's like having the RGB SCART cable and the component cable plugged in at the same time, with all the display resolutions that you could want from those setups. For me, the only downside was the fact that it needed powering. I've had the Dreamcast adapter, I've had the GameCube adapter, and neither of those needed an independent power supply. So to need to use the USB was a little bit of a downside for me, until I realised you can actually plug it into the console, which I thought was really handy. You don't need to find a separate plug, you don't need to plug it into the TV. I like the logic with that. The only downside to that, of course, is the aesthetics. Having this cable coming around the front and plugged into the front of what is a gorgeous console is a little bit of a pain, but that's all personal preference. And if you don't like that look, then you can find an alternative input for your USB cable quite easily. So all in all, great little adapter, very easy to use, and I'll definitely be using it this week when I'm playing some more PS2 games.